What's worse, going into Game 1 missing 6 players, or seeing the referees tilt the floor against you in the biggest moment of your season? That's exactly what the Indiana Fever dealt with against the Atlanta Dream, and you could feel the frustration boiling over. Stephanie White went off and literally got a technical foul for saying what every fan was already thinking. So how does a team held together by tape and grit keep fighting through injuries and officiating chaos? Was it really bad luck, or something that felt a whole lot more like sabotage? Stay with me, because what happened in Game 1 has fans furious, players livid, and the entire league buzzing about whether the Fever were robbed. Imagine walking into the playoffs missing half your rotation before the ball even tips. How do you even try to compete? That's the exact nightmare the Indiana Fever faced, and it wasn't just 1 or 2 players. You want to talk about bad luck? Caitlin Clark's groin injury was already a season ender. Chloe Bibby's knee took her out. Sophie Cunningham and Sydney Colson were gone with their own knee problems. Ari McDonald was sidelined with her foot. And just to make the cut even deeper, less than 24 hours before Game 1, Damiris Dantas was slapped by concussion protocol. That's 6 players who should have been suiting up, 6 rotation pieces stripped away. And yet this team still had to step onto the floor against a dream roster that was fully loaded and waiting. I was super excited. I think just looking at the injured squad in itself, they just have a lot of knowledge, and so for us just being able to listen to them, taking what they see, because obviously just them watching is going to be a different view than us on that court, and so super happy to have them with us. How is that fair to the players or the fans? Indiana fought through this exact kind of punishment all season just to secure the 6th seed. They scratched and clawed their way through months of lineups shuffled together like a puzzle missing entire pieces, and instead of being rewarded with a clean slate for the playoffs, they showed up in Atlanta with more names on the inactive list than some teams have on their bench. Yeah, I mean, we miss them every day on the court, so to be able to have them we had our plane, front of our plane, normally we have empty seats, it was filled on the way here, so, I mean, they bring energy, they bring light, they bring, they're vocal leaders, all of them, so to have them on the strip is huge, and I don't know how we're going to fit everyone on the bench. It's not that long. It's been packed recently, so I'm excited to see how we figure that out, but it'll be great to have them back with us. And speaking of the bench, oh, it was a sight. The Fever decided everyone was traveling. All 16 players, healthy or not, were there. It was a gesture that screamed unity, but also highlighted the absurdity of their situation. There weren't even enough seats. The main row filled up so fast that players in street clothes had to sit in the second row behind the actual bench, like they were waiting for boarding on a flight. You know you've hit the injury lottery when you can't even fit the whole group along the sideline. You know, they're finally able to travel from a medical standpoint as well, so, you know, I think having the whole group here, having those guys here gives us a little bit of a boost emotionally, and then having that perspective. I mean, you know, you're talking about 3-point guards that are sitting on the sideline that can talk to our team in huddles, that can talk to our team, you know, throughout the course of dead balls or when they come on and off the floor. This is where context matters. Think about the other playoff teams. They're bringing out solid second options. Reliable players they can rotate when stars pick up fouls or need a breather. Indiana didn't have that. They were leaning on whoever was left standing, patching holes with tape, grit, and prayer. And yet, despite all this, they made the postseason 2 years running. That alone says resilience. Sophie Cunningham might have summed it up best without even trying. Stuck in rehab for her knee, she joked she's basically part of the medical staff now. It was a throwaway line, but it showed the ridiculousness of the whole season. A starter turned cheerleader, cracking jokes to keep spirits up while knowing she should be out there making shots. That's the Fever in a nutshell, finding ways to smile through the pain. And the wildest part? Those injuries didn't stop the team from coming out of the gate swinging in Game 1. They caught Atlanta off guard early and built a lead like they were too stubborn to notice their disadvantages. But of course, it couldn't stay that simple. Because right when the Fever proved they could hang, despite everything, the referees decided to insert themselves and change the direction of the game completely. What the referees did. And I know why Stephanie White got it technical. Wow, any coach that had to watch their team work so hard all season long, play through every single injuries. And the reason why they had so many injuries is because of these referees. Every playoff game has its swings, but nothing flips momentum faster than a whistle that doesn't make sense. Indiana walked into Atlanta carrying the weight of 6 injured players and still punched first. They jumped out to a 15-6 start, with Kelsey Mitchell drilling shots early and Aaliyah Boston doing what she does best, dominating the glass and clogging the lane. The Fever were locked in, playing like a team that had no intention of letting their short-handed roster define the night. For a moment, it felt like the impossible was about to happen, a broken roster threatening a healthy dream squad. And then the officiating started to bleed the energy out of the game. That early rhythm was disrupted by whistles that came out of nowhere. Defensive stops that should have turned into fast breaks instead became free throws for Atlanta. Clean contests were marked as fouls. Mitchell and others would fight through screens to keep the Dream from getting clean looks, only for the play to be stopped and reversed by a call that didn't add up. And it wasn't just a single mistake. It repeated over and over, draining the urgency Indiana had built at the start. The referees took it over. Look at this. Everybody saw this. Lexi Hall didn't touch her, but they had to waste their first challenge on this play. Here we go. Look at this. She gets elbowed in the face, and they call a foul on Brianna Turner, and then Lexi Hall turns around to go back on defense, but she gets charged for a foul, and they wanted to upgrade it, reviewed it. Lexi Hall became one of the big victims of these phantom calls. She was tagged with a foul on Ryan Howard despite being in perfect defensive position, nowhere near illegal contact. Coach Stephanie White challenged it, and the replay confirms what everyone watching already knew. There was no foul. She had to burn one of her challenges in the first quarter, something no coach ever wants to do that early. White later admitted it was very frustrating to win 2 challenges that fast, because it proved the referees were clearly missing things, but she didn't have unlimited chances to correct them. She had to spend both challenges by the second quarter just to keep her players from being buried under bad officiating. Meanwhile, Atlanta's physicality was allowed to run unchecked. Fans watched Brianna Jones throw an elbow into Brianna Turner, or Brittany Griner shove into Aaliyah Boston on post-ups, and nothing was called. The inconsistency made every possession a gamble. If Indiana put a body on someone, it was a foul. If Atlanta did it, play continued. That type of lopsidedness doesn't just show up on a scoreboard. It chips away at confidence, focus, and rhythm. By the fourth quarter, the frustration boiled over. White barked at the officials after a sequence where Ryan Howard pulled on Shea Petty without a whistle. The referees hit her with a technical for speaking the same frustration every Indiana fan was yelling at their TV. We knew coming in it's playoffs, it's going to be physical, we're going to have to learn how to play with that, especially this team is inherently a physical team. So for us, knowing that's the case and being able to respond, I think there's things that we're able to watch and film on how to handle that better and not letting the reps determine, how that physically is impacting us, but just continuing to play through that. It's definitely something we're going to have to work on it and watch film and get better at, but that's part of playoffs, and that's part of the thing that we're going to have to get better at moving forward in the series. Odyssey Sims got one not long after, diving for a loose ball that should have been praised as hustle, but was instead punished. The building was buzzing with chaos, and the Fever bench looked shaken. Caitlin Clark, sidelined but present, even stepped in to calm her own head coach when White looked ready to take it further. It was a surreal image, the sophomore, injured and unable to play, holding back the coach who'd had enough of the nonsense. Atlanta thrived in that storm. They turned the chaos into a third-quarter run, stretching the lead and making it a hill the Fever couldn't climb from. The headlines after weren't about how Indiana stars played, they were about the officiating. Fans were left asking whether the Fever got beat by the Dream or by the referees. But despite all of that, the group on the court never stopped fighting. And that part of the story matters even more. They didn't stop either. You'd think after 20 of them. Look at this. So that's a foul, right? But watch when the Fever do it 2 times in a row, same exact thing. But it's not a foul when the Fever drive. Look at this. It's not a foul when the Fever get hit in the air, but the Dream get free throws. Same exact plays. Look at this one. What are you supposed to do? Just roll out the red carpet and give him a layup? She is not fouling her. They give her a 3-point play for putting her hands up, with everything stacked against them. How do you even measure success? By the final score, or by pride in how hard you fought? That's the dilemma the Fever faced in Game 1. On paper, they were outmatched. On the court, they refused to quit, and leading that charge, as always, was Kelsey Mitchell. She dropped 27 points, a playoff career high, shooting almost 50% from the floor and hitting nearly every free throw she earned. Every time Indiana's offense dried up, Mitchell seemed to force it back to life. She wasn't just getting buckets, she added 4 assists and even a block, doing everything possible to keep the Fever clinging to the game. But no matter how brilliant Mitchell was, it was impossible to ignore what was missing. Caitlin Clark's absence took away the one thing that could stretch defenses, her ability to force opponents to guard 25 feet from the basket. Without that threat, Atlanta didn't even pretend to respect Indiana beyond the arc. They packed the paint, cut off driving lanes, and dared the Fever's secondary players to hit from distance. That lack of spacing created a brutal environment inside for Aaliyah Boston. She fought her way through foul trouble, but still managed 12 rebounds, 12 boards, while juggling multiple defenders and trying to avoid whistles. Every possession felt like a wrestling match with Atlanta's front court, but Boston never stopped working. Offensively, she was quieter, 8 points on limited looks, but the sheer rebounding effort kept Indiana competitive longer than they probably should have been. Lexi Hull gave every ounce she had as well. 9 points doesn't leap off the stat sheet, but it mattered. She buried one of Indiana's only threes on a night where the rim looked unforgiving for everyone else. She chased Atlanta around screens, fought for loose balls, and played the energy role that so often goes unnoticed until it's missing. Even when her shots weren't falling at a high clip, Hull refused to fade, reminding everyone she can contribute in ways that don't always translate to box score glory. Meanwhile, Atlanta rolled bodies at Indiana like a fresh wave every quarter. Alicia Gray and Ryan Howard both went for 20. Naz Hillman gave a big lift with 16, and Brittany Griner's presence in the post drew extra defenders and carved out space for her teammates. The contrast was obvious. One side had weapons to rotate in and out, the other was praying their stars could keep standing as the game went on. Indiana shot under 35% from the field overall, and when the Dream kept rebounding the first miss, the gap began to widen. And yet, the most impressive takeaway isn't in the percentages. It's the fact that the Fever never folded. They played until the final buzzer, knowing their chance to flip the script hadn't vanished. It just moved to Indianapolis. Game 2 becomes their first home playoff game since 2016, and that alone gives this group reason to believe the fight is nowhere close to over. Now the question isn't about whether Indiana has enough stars on the floor. It's about whether their crowd can provide the energy needed to fuel a season-defining win. I mean, we're competing against everyone. We were in every single game, and I think at the end of the day, we've seen in moments when we're not doing well, or games that we've lost, it's really things that we can control. So making sure that we're locked in on all of those things and tidying up those little things, because if we can put together 40 minutes, we feel like we can beat anybody in the league. So we're excited about the opportunity. We're excited that the playoffs is finally here. And now, it's not about what our record was. It wasn't about teams we beat or who we didn't beat during the regular season. It's about Atlanta. It's about this game on Sunday. So that's all we're focused on, and we're really excited about the opportunity. Picture this. The Indiana Fever haven't hosted a playoff game at Gainbridge Fieldhouse since 2016. And now, they're stepping on that court with their season hanging by a thread. Nearly a decade of waiting, plus an entire season battered by injuries, has finally led to this moment. For fans, it's more than just a game. It's a chance to remind the league that playoff basketball in Indiana still means something, and the hunger in that building is going to be impossible to ignore. I think we're just really excited about it. I think last year our fans were robbed of getting to be part of the playoff experience. Watching the Pacers in playoff, the fans really do show out, and Gainbridge is loud and crazy and electric, and so to be able to host a game there and be able to bring what they've, how they've supported us so long, be able to give this to them and have a really fun one. I think we're really excited about it, and I love this Sinifona. The setup couldn't be more dramatic. This isn't just another regular season matchup. It's the Fever's last shot at extending their run. The painful part, they're still down the exact same 6 players that left them short in Atlanta. Caitlin Clark remains sidelined. Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, Eri McDonald, Chloe Bibby, all unavailable. Damiris Dantas is out after concussion protocol and will be re-evaluated if she can return for Game 2. That leaves Indiana staring down the same depth problem with no margin for error. Atlanta, of course, knows what worked in Game 1. They swarmed the paint until spacing vanished, forced Indiana into hurried jump shots, and leaned on depth that simply isn't comparable right now. 2 for 15 from 3 isn't going to cut it, and everyone in the building knows it. Head coach Stephanie White made it clear. If this offense is going to survive, the ball has to move. Quick decisions, sharp passing, and no wasted possessions. Better execution is non-negotiable because the dream size and length will not shrink under Indiana's roof. Hey, it doesn't feel differently for me. I mean, because I've been in all the formats, it's like, as being a player and a coach, I don't know if it feels differently for them. I'm happy for our fans, that they get an opportunity to see the team in the playoffs. I remember a year ago in Connecticut, it was like, thank God we didn't have to go back to Indiana. So I'm thankful for our fans that they're going to have this opportunity. The burden on Mitchell is heavy, but it cannot just be her. 27 points in Game 1 proves she's capable. But without another scorer breaking free, Atlanta will load up again and suffocate her driving lanes. Boston will battle inside, and Hull will fight for every loose ball, but someone else, whether it's Turner, Howard, or Hartley, needs to rise as a reliable option. So that's where the crowd comes in. 17,000 fans can't guard Ryan Howard or box out Brittany Griner, but their energy can make every Indiana run feel bigger, every stop sting deeper, and every dream possession a little more uncomfortable. This game isn't just about survival, it's about proving this franchise can take a heavy punch, stand tall at home, and start building momentum toward the future everyone in Indiana is waiting for. Win or lose, what happens inside Gainbridge Fieldhouse will define how this playoff run is remembered. Personally excited. I'll let you know when I get there. But I think it gives ourselves a chance to stay in a hunt of things we really trying to figure out, where to come back here. Whenever we play, we would like to play again. So, we don't have to take the necessary steps to be at your best. But I would like to think that being back at home could kind of give us a sense of comfort. So hopefully we can use it for what it's worth and not take it for granted. This series isn't just about wins and losses. It feels like survival. The Fever have been battered by injuries all season, then robbed of momentum by game-changing whistles, and somehow they're still preparing to fight again. Game 2 in Indianapolis isn't just another game. It's the first playoff matchup at Gainbridge since 2016, and everything rides on it. Fever fans need to bring all the energy possible because this is the moment that decides how the year closes. One game can still flip the entire narrative. Will the home crowd be the spark that keeps their season alive? Do you think the Fever was robbed by the refs?